Alright, what's up everybody? Mr. Porkchop back here with another video. Today's video is going to be on chapter 5 of this Python crash course book I got. This chapter covers if statements. I'm going to try to make this one a little bit different. I have an outline that I'm going to try to follow. And I'm just going to do a couple short examples of if statements using lists, for loops, and do my best to explain everything that I kind of learned in that chapter without actually going through, the actual book. And the last video I did, I feel like it was just a little too long. Like I did go through, I think, 2 chapters in that one, and there was a lot to cover, but I'm just going to try to shorten this video down. Um, so yeah, we'll get right into it. I'm going to go ahead in here to our Sublime text editor. I have my if statement file already set up, but if you need to create a new file and you just downloaded Sublime, just go into new file. You can create a new file and then click save as, and just find a folder to save it into. For me, like I said, I already set this up before the video, so we're all set to go. My first example here is going to be a list of just family members. So we'll have a family list, and we're just going to be using this inside of our, we'll be using it later on for our if statement. But I'm just going to set this up real quick. We'll have a mom, we'll have a dad, a sister, and we will have a brother. All right. And now we'll do a little for loop to iterate through our list, and then inside of our for loop, we'll have some if statements to kind of decide what we want to do with our family members, depending on whether it's the mom, the dad, the sister, or the brother. So we'll do a for loop first, and it's just going to do for, and we'll go family member, I guess. So I mean, we'll do for family member, we will have so for family member in family, that'll be our for loop. And now we can do our first if statement. So our first if statement, try to think exactly what we want to do, but first one will go if family member, right? If family member equals dad, we'll print something, and we'll just print. I'm actually going to do kind of like what I did in some of my previous videos, where you can do F and then parentheses, and then inside those parentheses you can put curly brackets here, and you can have it actually just print out that index for you. I'm also going to use the method upper so that it'll print out, well, if the index that it has equals what we want it to. So as it loops through, it's going to find dad first because dad is the first index. It's going to see, all right, dad is equal to what we have here. And it's going to jump in here and it's going to print dad, but it's going to print it all uppercase because we have that upper method right there. And then along with that, we can do something like dad is awesome, right? Okay, so that'll be our first if statement. Now, when you're creating if statements, you can do like I did here. You can do equals, and you can compare it to something else. You can also do an exclamation mark and an equal sign, which means does not equal. So if it sees this, it's gonna be checking to see if this is not equal to this. You can also do less than, you can do greater than, you can do less than equal, and obviously those are more for numeric values. You're not going to be checking to see if like one string is greater than another string. So it depends on what data type you're working with. The double equals, as always, is checking to see if two values are equal, and the single equal is setting, whatever your variable is to a certain thing. So just don't get those too confused. So those are some of the things you can do. You can also do inside of if statements, you can check for multiple cases using or or using and. When you use or, like you could do this, make sure to actually type out the variable again. So we could say or is equal to mom. So a family member is equal to dad, or a family member is equal to mom, and that's going to check to see, hey, is it equal to this or is it equal to that? And as long as one of them is true, it's going to jump into that if statement. And similar to or, if you use and, it's going to check both conditions, but in order for it to go into this if statement, both conditions must be true. So it would have to be, family member would have to equal dad and equal mom, which in this case is impossible. So this if statement would always be false. But that's how and or work. While I'm kind of going over this, maybe what I should have mentioned earlier is the way if statements kind of work is they are similar to like Boolean, that they're Boolean values. They're going to give you a Boolean value, meaning it's going to either be true or false, and that's what it's really checking. It's checking something, it's comparing two things, and then if those things end up being matching, then it's going to give you a true value. Or like I said, if you're checking for things not to match, then it'll give you a true value. But either way, when you read the if statement, you should be able to easily distinguish whether or not the statement is true or the statement is false. If it's true, then the lines of code that are indented underneath it will be executed. If it's false, then it's going to skip that statement. It's going to skip everything inside of it, and it's going to jump down to whatever is below it. And you can add multiple if statements. You can continue to do if statements down here and just do multiple if statements if you want. You can also have it check different things using else if statements. And in Python, instead of actually writing out else if like you would in C++ or Java, you can just do elif, that's else if, and then you can have it check for another condition underneath that. Once you're done with all of your else if statements, the final statement should just be an else, and else isn't going to have any type of isn't really have anything after it checking. It's not really comparing anything. Your else statement is going to be basically your default, what you want it to do as a default if none of your other statements actually end up being true. And you don't actually have to leave this else statement there. You can leave it out if you want. If you know that one of the statements above is what you want it to execute and you don't want it to execute anything by default, then you can leave else out. But getting back to this example here, we are going to just leave it with checking for dad right now. So we will do if family member equals dad, then we will print this right here, which means dad is awesome. And then below that, we will do an else if family member equals mom, can print, we'll just do family member uppercase again. Oops. Forgot my curly brackets. So family member, I don't want that in my brackets. Say mom is the best. And then below this, you could do your general statement, right? You can do else. So else is going to be our generic statement, and we can print. Actually, we'll keep it similar to what we did up there, and I will just have it actually print out whatever the index is. We'll do title case for this one. So that's just going to capitalize the first letter of their name, and we will say is not a parent. So now if we do Control B and we run this, you can see down here that it's the first time around in our for loop, it takes dad and family member is equal to dad. It goes through it starts out and tries our first if statement. So our first if statement compares this, and it's going to be like, all right, family member is equal to dad, so we're going to jump into here, and we are going to print dad is awesome, which is what it did right there. And then after that, that's it. Like once, because these are else if statements and else statements, this is all kind of together. So it's just going to check dad against this. It's going to check dad, and it's going to go through each one until it finds true. And because it found true in the first one, it's going to skip everything below it. Now, when it gets to mom, it's going to check this first one and be like, all right, this is false. So we're going to skip this line, and we're going to go to our next else if. And then it's going to be like, all right, that one was true. So it prints out mom is the best. And then when it gets to sister, it's going to go through and it's going to check this, and it's going to be like, that's false. So it's going to skip that. It's going to check this one, be like, that's false too. We're going to skip it. We'll go to our default, which is this. And it's going to say not a present, not a parent. So as you can see, it did the same thing for brother and sister. And that is how you basically set up an if statement with an else if and an else. All right, so as I was editing this, I really didn't like the way I really explained how the else if and if statements kind of go together, and why it's important to understand the difference between doing multiple if statements versus doing if else statements and else if statements. So I think this example kind of tells what I want it to do. So as you can see here, I have the same list, and I have it iterating through my list, and I have a couple different things going on down here. So I have an if statement here saying, you know, if my family member equals dad to do this, and then right below that I have an else if statement saying if my family member equals dad, do this. And then I have another separate if statement checking again to see if family member is equal to dad, printing another thing. Now I'm going to build this right now, and you guys can see the very first thing it prints is dad is awesome. So when it goes through my list, it iterates through and it checks to see a family member, you know, the first index is dad. So on our first loop, family member equals dad. So this is true. And it prints dad is awesome. That seems like we're doing a good job. Like it's doing what we think it's going to do. But then right here in our else if statement, this is also true. Family member equals dad at this point. We know that. But why didn't this print? So the reason that this didn't print is because when you do else if, these two statements are kind of linked together. Once it starts this, it's only going to go through until it gets a true value. And because this one's true, it doesn't bother checking to see if there's an else if, because it's already satisfied. It's already found a true statement. And that is why if you want it to do two different things, you have to do a separate if statement. So you can see this one works. It says this one works because I did a whole new if statement. But in this case, once this one was true, it skips all of this other stuff. So that's what I was trying to explain. I think I explained it a little bit better with this example, and I'm going to insert this into the video, so we'll see how that goes. Like I said, if I take off this else and you don't want to worry about the brother and the sister, you just want to do mom and dad, then you can take that else out, and if we run it, it's just going to do these first two, and it does absolutely nothing when it finds these two values, because it's going to see this and be like, it's false. This is false. We're not going to do anything. All right, guys, sorry about the whole new setup here. When I was editing this, there was one more thing that I wanted to add in here that I had forgot, and that was just using if statements in order to check a list to see if it is full or empty. And the way that you do this is very simple. You just do if and then type in the name of your list. So in my case, it would be family, and it acts just like an actual if statement. So if family is going to return true if my family list has something in it, which it does. So it should print out whatever I want it to print down here. If I tell it to print something, I can say like my list is not empty. And if I run this, you'll see that the last thing it prints is my list is not empty. If I go up here and I remove everything from my list, and then I go ahead and run this again, it doesn't do anything. That is because everything is going to be false. Obviously, this is false because there is nothing in it, and then this is going to return false because my list is empty. That was the last thing I wanted to add. So if you guys made it to the end of this video, I appreciate it very much. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, if you learned something. Subscribe to the channel if you want to keep seeing these videos. I'm going to continue to work my way through this Python Crash Course book, and then after that, I also have the coding or cracking the coding interview book that I'm going to be looking through a little bit. So I'll be doing some videos on that. And I still have, I think, 7 more classes before I graduate with my computer science degree. So I will be doing some videos with what I learned in those classes as well. But that is all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. And leave me a comment if you guys want to if you have a question, and if you just want to say what's up. I appreciate the comments. I'm almost at 50 subscribers now, which is pretty exciting for me. So yeah, see you guys around.